Welcome to another episode of the Minnesota Meatloaf podcast. How's it going today, Matt?
Good. How are you, Aaron?
Well, not too bad. It's pretty rainy out there today. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
it
I
is.
guess it's supposed to rain for the next few days. So
Yeah, I guess we need the rain, but hopefully we don't get flooded and
I
float
know.
away.
Yep. So you been playing anything, watching anything?
I've been watching The Defenders on Disney Plus, all the different Netflix Marvel superheroes, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, and Daredevil, all together fighting
Oh,
Sigourney Weaver and Elektra. It's awesome. I like
oh.
it. And then I haven't really been playing anything. I did see an article that like apparently 11 million people had downloaded Power Wash Simulator, so I felt sort of vindicated that it's not such a weird game after all, apparently.
Really? That many people, huh?
Yes, like a ridiculously huge number.
Awesome. It was a
But
fun game.
yep. How about you? What have you been up to?
Um, I don't. What did I watch? I finally watched Late Night with the Devil,
Oh,
which I
okay.
really liked. I watched it twice. It was so good.
Huh.
I think it's yeah, streaming on Shutter now, but it's such a weird movie.
That's what I
It's
keep hearing.
yeah, it's filmed. It's supposed to take place in 1977, so it's filmed kind of like with that style. So everybody's like dressed in the style of clothing, and it's kind of shot grainy. And
Hmm.
it's about a guy who has a talk show or a host of a late night talk show, and he's trying to compete with Johnny Carson, and
Uh-huh.
he's always close to beating him in the ratings, but he never does. So on Halloween in 1977, he decides to do like a show on the occult. So
Uh-huh.
he has like this guy that's supposed to be a mind reader, and then a guy that debunks all that stuff, kind of like
Yeah.
was it the Amazing Randy,
Yeah.
and then an author who wrote a book on a girl that's supposed to be possessed by a demon or the devil, and they're on there, and yeah, it's pretty crazy, but it's really good. I highly recommend it.
Awesome. I really want to. I've wanted to see it ever since I saw the first trailer for it. And I'm
Yeah,
like, that looks good. And then I've heard nothing but, well, other than some people were upset about the AI, but other than that, I've
oh
heard nothing but good things about it. Just
yeah, it gets
everyone.
really. Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
What?
I was just gonna say, everyone talks about how weird it is and how creepy it is and how
Yeah,
different it is, and it's like, I want to see it.
yeah, it's good. Yeah, definitely. And then haven't really been playing too much. I still playing Gotham Knights and
Okay,
almost done with that. But yeah, that's about it.
nice.
Yeah. So what's the topic for today?
Today we are talking about Nintendo Power Magazine and some of
Uh,
our memories related to Nintendo Power Magazine. And I think it's hard, it's impossible to understate just
yeah.
how huge Nintendo Power was to us and to kids our age, but especially to us in general. And like we got our Nintendo. We were one of the first people to get Nintendo because somehow I remember seeing an ad for Target. We'll get to the
Mhm.
Nintendo Power memories, but first let me just go on a big spiel about Nintendo. So I saw, like, I remember seeing an ad for it like in the Sunday paper, and I begged and begged and begged, and we got it. And we got like the one of the first, like with the robot and with the gun, and it
Okay.
came with Gyromite and Duck Hunt instead of Super Mario Brothers. We had to buy Super Mario's separate on its own
Okay.
cartridge. And then you could sign up for the Nintendo Fun Club. And
Yep.
then you got what was the Nintendo Fun Club newsletter. And we got it starting with issue 2. So we missed the very first one.
Yep.
But then we got every issue. And it was like maybe like what, like 2 pages or 3 pages?
Couple pages it was. Yeah.
Just a kind of a little thin couple pages, but it had some Nintendo news and it was always exciting to get. And then all of a sudden one day they announced coming soon, Nintendo Power Magazine. And
Yep.
it was a big mamma jamma. It was it was
Yeah.
and that first issue came with Super Mario, like the claymation Super Mario 2 on the front. And oh my gosh, it was like heaven had opened up and angels had came down and choirs were playing.
Yeah, because we'd never seen anything like that. It was
Right.
amazing. And
And you
there
got to
wasn't really any magazines like that or just
ex-
that just focused on Nintendo.
exactly. You got to remember this was before there was internet, so there were, you had our 3 channels of network TV or 4 or 5 whatever, and you couldn't just go online and watch YouTube videos of people playing video games.
No.
You maybe saw a commercial during TV if you were lucky,
Yep.
and then you had this little Nintendo sheet. So to have a whole, like, I think it was like 100 pages or something,
It was
mag
yeah, it was about that.
just dedicated solely to Nintendo. And there was like Game Informer and like electronic gaming, but they were always really seemed crappy by
Yeah, I
comparison.
never really looked at those or really, paid any attention to them back in the day. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I remember I'd gotten the Fun Club news and all that, and then I had went to a friend's place, and he was like, "Look what just came in the mail yesterday," and I hadn't, seen it, and he showed me that, and I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, they just sent it to me, first Nintendo Power," and I was like, "Oh my God!" So I spent the whole time looking at it at his house, and I was like, "Oh, I want one. I hope I get it." And then actually, I got home and we got the mail, and it was there in the mail that day. And
Nice.
then yeah, and then I was looking it up and I was like, when did it come out? What year? And it was July, August of 88 is when it came out.
Okay.
And so Nintendo, what they did was they sent it out to everybody that was members of the Fun Club or the
Okay.
fan club, Nintendo Fun Club. So that's how they got everybody's address. And they sent everybody a free copy of the first one, kind of like a drug dealer, because they get you with the
Yeah.
first one. And then after the first one, then you had to pay for a subscription, a yearly subscription.
Yeah, that's all
So
coming back to me. I remember that all now.
yeah, because the first one was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And then it's like, well, if you want more, you can, pay whatever, $12, $13 for a year. But then it came out like every other month they came out. So it was like
Hmm.
6 issues, I think, the first or second year. So they didn't, but still it was just so exciting. And the
Yep.
covers were amazing.
The covers were always like some of the best part, especially those first
Oh,
ones. Like the first one was like a Super Mario 2, but made out of clay. And
yep.
there was one for I remember Castlevania 2 with like a vampire
That was
hunter.
the second issue,
Is
yeah.
it? Oh, that one's awesome.
And that was, I guess, controversial because of, they're holding Dracula's head, or was it
Or
Simon Belmont holding the
uh-huh.
head of Dracula? And
Nice. There was even a track and field one with like shoes, but with like jets on the back, and
third
even
one,
that
yep.
looked cool. Yeah, that was the third one. I'm just going right down the line.
You are.
Boom, boom, boom. Okay, now I forgot. I don't know what the fourth one is.
No, I don't
Mega
remember what
Man.
the.
No, there's Mega Man 2. Each issue had it was like a centerfold, but it was like a
Yep,
fold out poster, like three
yep.
flaps. And we had our bedroom plastered. Every single month one of those came out. We cut it out
Oh,
and slapped it on the wall.
oh, I did too. Yep. And I still have like all the first, like I think the first year, like the first year of the issues, I still have them. I didn't get rid of them, and then I also have the Fun Club or the fan
Oh,
or Fun Club
nice.
news. So I didn't get rid of those, but the other stuff I got rid of. But yeah, I remember the posters hanging those up all the time.
Yeah. Hang him on the wall.
Yeah.
um,
Did you did you enter any of those contests and win? Remember, they'd always have in the middle, they'd have like an amazing contest and you could fill out the
oh man.
card and then you could win like a special game or, a trip somewhere. And
I didn't enter it every time because sometimes I just honestly was like meh. But there
oh,
I definitely entered it quite a few times. And the one
mhm,
that sticks out in my mind was it was for BattleTech, and
okay.
the grand prize was you got to go to like a BattleTech virtual reality center and like sit in like a virtual BattleTech machine and play the game. And this is back in like the early 90s, I think, or late, so that was like a big deal. There wasn't VR and
Oh,
stuff back
yep.
then. And then the second prize, which I actually wanted more than the grand prize, was you won BattleTech, Aerotech, CityTech, the tabletop games, and all the minis and all
Yeah.
the figures. And I wanted to win. And then I think like the third prize was like subscription to Nintendo Power or something. But I was like, I
Hmm.
wanted to win that so effing bad. Like I looked at that
Oh,
every single day before I went to bed. Like I was
yep.
pining for it. And I
Yep.
just was like, never won it, but I did eventually buy most of the BattleTech games anyway, and it was kind of disappointing. I never really got into BattleTech as much as I thought I
Yep.
was going to.
Yep.
Is the
But it seemed
footnote to that
exciting.
story exactly?
Yeah, Nintendo Power always made it like so exciting. The prizes, they showed pictures and long descriptions of everything, and
There was
yeah,
one where you could like win to go see some band, and it was like a heavy metal band, and it was a band I had never heard of before in my entire life, and I'm like, who the f are they?
yeah,
What's doing that? It was like
yeah,
go see Wingnut. It's like what? Who?
yeah,
I don't remember who it was, but it was like
yeah. Something strange, and then you could always like vote on games or something like that. I remember they always had you like vote what your favorite games were, top three
Oh, yep.
games in that on that form, and yeah.
And then they had the top 10. Like it would always be
Yep.
like top 10, number one, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link.
Yep.
Zelda 2 comes in with another another win
Yeah.
on the top 10. But speaking of Zelda 2, I want to talk about how nowadays, and for most of like since probably a long time, but when I play a video game, my favorite video games are the open world games. Like Bloodborne is one of my favorites, and I love going around and exploring and discovering things, or like an Uncharted game where there's a puzzle and then you figure out the puzzle and everything starts sliding and moving and ringing and dinging and all that
Yep.
jazz. And then you get that feeling of satisfaction, like, wow, I figured, you're like, I'm the smartest man alive, like Billy Madison.
Yep.
And then, but what I used to do, how I used to play video games, and when I said Zelda 2, it made me think of this, is I would get the Nintendo Power and I would sit
Yep.
down, page one. First, what you do is go to this temple and get this.
Yep.
Okay, do 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 do. Okay, what's next? Next, go to the second temple, get the hammer. Okay, do 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 do.
Oh yeah.
And I thought I was the greatest gamer in the world because I could
Yep.
pass any game.
I know, and I did that too. And then what was cool too with Nintendo Power is every so often they would like send out like special things in the mail. So you'd get like for a while you got like the strategy guide for Final Fantasy, and then the next couple months later, in between issues, you'd get strategy guide for Ninja Gaiden 2. And that's how I beat Final Fantasy exactly like how you said
Yep.
it was like page by page. He was going, okay, go here, get this, and write this.
That's
This is how you beat this guy.
that's literally the only Nintendo Power thing I have left is the Final Fantasy strategy guide. And
Yep, I
yep,
kept that.
I kept that, and I don't think I have anything else, but I did the exact same thing. And then
Yeah.
years later, when we were in college, and I had the little mini Nintendo, and I still had
Oh,
Final Fantasy 1, and I
yep.
tried to play it without any like guidebooks, any players guide. I was so freaking lost. I was like, where the
Oh,
hell am I supposed to go?
I know.
this
Yep.
game's a lot harder without the strategy guide.
Yeah, and everybody, I mean, whoever was creating that stuff for Nintendo did a really good, thorough job with every little detail, in those strategy guides. So,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
yep.
Like I remember you could even look on the dungeons with lava and see where the lava was and where it wasn't and where the treasure chests were, so you could like ahead of time
Oh,
plan your route.
yep.
Like, okay, I'm going to go to the left, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there.
Yep. Did you ever order anything from the Nintendo Powers? Because sometimes, like I know, like with the newsletters, you could get like how to win at Super Mario Brothers
Oh
or
yeah.
Zelda tips and tricks or special Rad Racer 3D glasses and
I we got the How to Win at Super Mario Brothers, the little yellow book, and then
yep,
there was the Zelda one. I wanted it, but we never got that. And then
yeah,
there was the big black, what was it, the official
oh
Nintendo
yeah,
player's guide
yep,
that was like magazine size and black, and it had, I think at the time, 300 games, which was every game made at the time of its release.
yeah. They had I have that still, and yeah, it's so many games in there. That was awesome.
That was I spent hours and hours. I read every page of that book backwards and forwards and spent hours with
Yep.
that book.
But
Then
every
you,
once in a while, there'd be something goofy with that book. Like I remember I had Russian Attack. You remember that game?
yep.
There was a thing in the strategy guide where it said if you like shot these missiles, like an underground world would open up. And it was like, what the heck? And it never happened. So I don't know if it was like the Japanese version of the game had
Oh,
that
weird.
or the Famicom version, or if it was, that. So I guess I've never really looked it up. I just thought of that right now.
I actually remember that now that you mentioned that.
And I was like, that's not in this game. What am I doing wrong? And
Yeah. Another thing I liked about that book is you would find such random, like Swoon, like just random
yeah,
obscure games that you otherwise probably never would have known even existed. And it's like, what the hell
no.
is Swoon? And then I'd
Yep.
ask for it for Christmas, and my poor mom would have to try and find this game that barely exists in reality.
Yep.
There's like 4 copies of it made or something.
Yep. And it's like, oh my God, going to every store in St. Cloud and Brainerd. And
I
yeah,
remember my cousins had the game Stinger, which was like a Konami game, and
I
it was
remember
like
that.
ships
Yep.
flying. But that was I like after that first came out, you couldn't find that game anywhere. That was like,
Really?
yeah, like I remember we looked for that for a long time, and nowhere really had it to rent. And
Wow. Yeah, the Nintendo Power was a good source too to learn about games or hear about games that you had no idea that were, coming out or around. And like you said, a
Hmm.
lot of the stores didn't have it, so you'd
Yeah.
go to St. Cloud or Brainerd and they would have it and be like, well, what's this game? Because I remember the one game was Stalis. It
Oh,
was
yep.
by SNK. It was kind of like a Zelda type game, and
Hmm.
nobody had it. I saw it in Nintendo Power in like just a mention, and I was like in a picture, and I'm like, this game looks awesome. And I remember we had to like special order it
That's a
because
really
none of the
fun game.
stores had it. Yeah,
I must have borrowed it from you or something because I
yeah,
know or I played it before, and that's a really fun game.
yeah. And it was hard because there was no guides or anything, so I had to like fight through that. Nintendo Power never covered it because it was kind of a obscure game, and so
I remember a game called Mylan's Secret Castle, and we might have
yeah,
talked about this on a different episode, but like we rented the game. I don't remember if it came with instructions or not, but I think it did, and I don't think the instructions ever said anything about look for secret rooms or whatever.
yeah,
But we played it, and you could literally get to like one floor of one building, and that's it. You'd go in one door, you'd walk across the hallway, you'd go
yeah,
out the door, and that was it. And you'd see stuff, but you couldn't jump to get to it.
yeah.
And like that was our game for the weekend that we rented, and so that was a waste of like a whole weekend basically. And then a month later, you get the Nintendo Power, and it's like a lot of people are having trouble with this game. But on the first floor, you shove this block to the right, and a door will appear. And it's like, oh, so then it was like we had to go rent it again and actually shove the block so that we could actually play the game.
Yep. Then
It's
the whole thing made sense, and then yeah,
yeah, and it still sucked. It still was a dumb
yeah,
game, but at least it
yeah,
was like, oh, there's more than just 3 seconds of game here.
yep. And then yeah, another cool thing with like the Nintendo Power was it always had like the tips and and tricks of the games or whatever, and like that was where I first learned about the Konami code,
Oh yeah,
for Contra, and then like a lot of the games had level selects that you didn't really know about, and it would show in there, how to do it, like so yeah.
yep.
Uh,
And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, Howard Phillips. I wanted to mention Howard Phillips. And there's
oh yeah,
cartoons like Howard and Nestor. And who
yep.
was it? Was he like the president of like US Nintendo or something?
He wasn't the president. He was, I don't know what his official title was, but he was more of the PR person. That's what he was.
Okay.
He was more of the PR person for Nintendo, like the spokesman of Nintendo.
Uh-huh.
So,
He would pop up in Nintendo Power like Howard's Corner and stuff like
yep,
that.
yep. It'd be fun to meet him someday. So,
Yep.
but yeah, I remember that because yeah, he had the cartoon, and then every once in a while, yeah, he would have like a review or a little article about something, and yeah.
Hmm. And then you can tell your story about Nintendo Power.
Oh, really
Yeah.
quick, and then I'll tell the story about Nintendo Power.
Okay.
Um, do you remember like Nintendo Power gave away like if you subscribed,
Oh, I
you
was
would
going to bring
get
this
Dragon
Dragon
Warrior?
Warrior. I was actually going to talk about. I think you and
And
I had the exact same experience, but go ahead.
you know, and I remember I had just subscribed to Nintendo Power, and
Hmm.
all of a sudden, like the next day in school, a bunch of people are like, "Hey, I just subscribed to Nintendo Power and I got a free copy of Dragon Warrior," and I'm like, "What?" So then I can't remember how I or how they got something mailed to them or something, and I never got it because I had subscribed because the only way to subscribe was to mail in money or call on the phone, and that's what it was. I called on the phone and asked, and they're like, "Yeah, if you subscribe, you get a free Dragon Warrior," and it was like, "Dang it!" And I asked Mom, "Can we subscribe again?" She's like, "Nope, we just did." So, but I was so mad. Everybody that subscribed got a free copy of Dragon Warrior.
Did you get a little like a little tiny pin, like Nintendo Power with like wings pin?
Yeah, when I first subscribed, yeah,
So what happened with us is we had our subscription, I think, for a year, and then it said it's time to renew. And here, if you renew for 1 year, you get a little bronze Nintendo Power
yep,
pin with one wing. If you renew for 2 years, you get a silver Nintendo Power pin with two wings. If you renew for 3 years, you get a gold Nintendo Power ring with
that's
pin with three wings.
yep.
And then we were like, we could only convince Mom to renew for 1 year. So we got the little bronze pin with one wing. The very next month after we renewed, all over TV, all over everything, subscribe to Nintendo Power and get a free copy of Dragon
That's
Warrior.
what it was. It was an ad. It was a TV ad.
Yup.
Yes.
And I was like,
Yep.
Are you effing kidding me? I got a tiny little bronze pin that looks like it cost 10 cents. Like it came out of a Cracker Jack box, and they're
Yeah,
giving
I did
away
the gold one. I talked mom into doing the 3 year.
nice because it
So it
made
was
sense
just,
at the time.
yeah.
And I
Oh,
think I think looking back on it, what happened was there was people like us where they sent out that very first issue, like you said, like the drug dealer, and we
yep,
signed up right away. And then we all had like a 1 year subscription, and then those all expired, and we all renewed. And then
yep,
after everyone renewed, Nintendo Power said, "Let's give away Dragon Warrior and get a bunch of new people in."
yep.
I think that's what
And
happened.
well, yeah, and what happened too, I looked or I've seen like interviews and stuff with it. Um, but with Dragon Warrior, the president of Nintendo thought it was going to be a huge hit
Mm-hmm.
in the United States, so he ordered 1 million copies of it to be sent here,
Uh huh.
and it didn't go over that well. People thought it was too
Ah.
hard and it didn't sell well, so they're like, "Well, we got all these copies. What are we going to do?" And so he was like, "Why don't we give it away free in Nintendo Power for people who subscribe to it?"
Huh.
So that's the story of how that happened. But it was
Ah.
just
Yeah.
like after we had already subscribed, and it was just
Yeah.
like, oh my God.
At the time, it felt like we really got screwed big time.
Yep. Yep. And it was like, dang. And then everybody at school was bragging, I got Dragon Warrior. I was
Yeah,
like, yeah, shut up.
knowing that I would actually want to play Dragon Warrior, they're all bragging about how they got it, but they're the
Yep.
people that would never play it because it was too hard. And then me, who I actually love Dragon Warrior, that's right up my alley, don't
I know.
end up not getting it.
Yep. I was like, oh. All right. So I'm in seventh grade. I'm going to tell a story and then we should probably wrap it up.
Okay, sounds good.
So I'm in seventh grade, right?
Yep.
So I get to school one day, and usually our thing in the morning is everybody get to school and we'd all stand around the lockers in a circle
Yep.
talk.
Hmm.
And so everybody's standing around, and and well, I get to school and everybody's kind of standing around, and they've got Nintendo Power.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the heck? Why is everybody like, and they're just like, everybody's not talking. They're all like looking at Nintendo Power. I'm like, why are they all, and they're all different magazines. And I'm like, why all of a sudden the interest in Nintendo Power, you know?
Right.
And I'm like, what are you guys looking at? And they're like, Nintendo Power. And I'm like, what? And one of the guys showed me, and what it was one of the guys in my class, and mind you, we're in seventh grade.
Yeah.
He found his dad's stash of like Playboy and Penthouse and all these adult magazines. He ripped the covers off his Nintendo Powers and put them over the covers of the magazines and brought him to school.
That's awesome.
And so it looked like everybody was looking at Nintendo Powers. And mind you, that day we had a field trip to the Science Museum in the cities in St. Paul. So he had a cardboard box of Powers that he brought on the bus.
Little reading
And
material for the trip.
it was everybody, all the guys, he handed out all the magazines to the guys. He had like probably 15, 20 of them.
Oh my god.
So the whole bus ride, the guys are all reading Nintendo Power. And the girls are like, why are you reading these video game magazines? And then I can't remember, finally one of the girls saw it,
Mm.
and she told the chaperone, the teacher, about it, and she was
Ooh.
like, "What?" And so, the teacher went and asked him about it and asked for one of the magazines. And so the kid gave her the magazine, and she was like, "Oh my God!" And she took the whole box, and I don't know what he got in for, how he got in trouble, but yeah. But one of the girls saw the magazine and was like, "Oh my God, he's got naked women magazines," and
Spilled the beans.
spilled the beans, and that was the end of the Nintendo Powers. But we went all the way to the cities and almost back with those Nintendo Powers.
now, now I have a question for you, Aaron.
Yes.
Was anyone playing with power? Hey, ah,
Yep.
whoo! All right.
They could have been. So. And with that, I think that wraps up this episode of the Minnesota
Yeah.
Meatloaf podcast. And Thanks for listening.
Thank you all. Please like and share and subscribe. We really appreciate it if you do.
All right. Thanks.